I want to grow the game so every kid can fall in love with soccer like I did. So I asked myself, what would you like the power to do? My answers inspired me to invent a pop-up soccer goal that can turn any basketball court into a street soccer pitch.
Bank of America champion street soccer advocate Kyle Martino, and everyone who dares to ask, what would you like the power to do? Bank of America, proud to be the official bank of U.S. Soccer and FIFA World Cup 2026. Bank of America N.A., member FDIC.
Grainger knows when you're a procurement manager for an office park, you're not managing one building, you're managing all of them. And to stay ahead, you need to see through walls and around corners. Lights about to fail, filters ready to clog, HVAC on its last leg. If you wait until something breaks, you're already behind. Count on Grainger for quality products, easy reordering, and 24/7 support. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast with your hosts, Kyle Borganoni and Matthew Betz.
Welcome in, boys and girls. It's Friday, July 3rd here on the Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Borganoni, and I'm joined as always by Matthew, ringing in July bets.
USA. USA. Come on, Kyle. Kyle's wearing an Olympics American flag hat right now, so he is all in on 4th of July. Loves it. Huge for the vibes this weekend, 4th of July. I'm picturing a perfect 4th of July weekend, Kyle. And you know what it includes? A round of golf, of course. If that's your thing. That's my thing. So
I'm happy for you. Yeah, keep going.
Okay, round of golf. We'll be at my in-laws' lake house, so taking the girls on the boat, hitting the jet ski, maybe a little kayaking, so some water time. And then in the evening, you got the campfire going. I mean, you got a drink in your hand, you pull out your phone, and it is time to rip some best ball drafts. What a weekend we have, Kyle, on tap here. So I'm excited. I can't wait for the 4th of July. It should be a really good weekend. And the show today is basically going to tell you how to win best ball in 2026. If you just pick these players and you have a great 4th of July weekend, the vibes are going to be through the roof. So let's go.
When we're talking best ball league winners, which is this episode, we have to kind of whittle down the choices of who we can talk about and say, like, hey, we're not going to bring up Jahmyr Gibbs. Sorry. But like,
well, that was my pick.
Well, then that's a good start for your team. But really where it comes down to is in the trenches. When you are in the 120s and you're saying to yourself, who can I pick? And Betz is going to give you that player today. But really, I look back at our episode last year and we'll be honest with some of the data. Here's what went right. Here's what went wrong. I think that this is one of my favorite episodes because we are planting our flag in the sand and saying these players, not only are we taking a lot, we are telling you to put your hard-earned money towards your kids' college funds, towards these players. And if they don't hit, they don't hit.
In fact, take money out of your kids' college fund and put them on these players. There's no way this goes wrong. It's funny, you and I were talking through like last year's process and previous seasons. I would say in general, we can count on like 3 to maybe best case scenario, like 4 or 5 of these guys coming through, which, hey, in the gambling and betting space, anything close to 60% is pretty good. So we'll shoot for that today. But man, it should be fun. I'm excited for these discussions. We came to these players individually. So there is a little overlap on team level stuff, but we came to these players individually. And there's a couple players that you highlighted that I have less than like 2% of. So perhaps I need to just sit back and listen and take some notes.
Yeah, we don't want to keep mentioning the same players we've talked about over and over again. So, like, if you've heard us on the podcast, we'll talk about Saquon here because I think Saquon's been one of our biggest stances in the early rounds. But we'll give you a menu of a couple other running backs too, just to go with it. Because, I mean, at this point, hopefully you have enough Saquon in your bag. We have him in our rankings well ahead of ADP, and we've been there for the last, 2 months. So I probably will back off just a little bit of Saquon. But I did the same thing last year with CMC, who was on this list for us, and you and I kind of like batted it around about CMC. And I don't know if I just was so far in that I just like kept going with CMC, but obviously it paid off. Is there a certain point where even the most bullish of players you are backing off in July?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, it's really easy right now, especially in the dead window of no news, no training camp, no injuries, all that sort of thing. Everything right now is great. Like your player takes all feel good and you feel correct on everything in your process. But obviously, we need to be open to the idea that we are probably going to be wrong about a lot of things because that's just how it goes, and adjust accordingly. And obviously, we say draft as if you're right, but that really comes down to exposure, risk, and how bullish you want to be on a player. I think I brought up this example in the past where the year that the Rashee Rice suspension, which basically is every year, but the one year where it was the headline of the summer where it's like, is he not? I don't know. And he fell at like the 7th and 8th round. And it was like, hey, this is a bet I want to make. I want to bet and make this bet aggressively. And so I came in at like 30% Rashee Rice that year. Looked great, gets injured, right? So even if you're correct, even if your stance on something is correct and your bet in theory is right, because of this game that we play where the season is so long and there's ebbs and flows in the season where players regress, they have great games, they fall off, they get injured, whatever the case may be, you can still be wrong. So I do caution people that are like, I'm getting 50% of this guy this year. It's like, okay, if that player hits, like you probably have a good chance to have a really successful year. But also, if it doesn't work out, your season's basically over. So I used to be a very aggressive drafter, and I still am in certain aspects of the draft, but I definitely have opened my eyes to just be like, hey, in this draft, I'm gonna switch it up. I'm gonna take, these couple of guys that I don't have a lot of exposure on, which we get to this part of the summer where you get on autopilot in drafts, and we bring this up every summer. It's like, hey, just make sure you're checking in. If you're drafting a lot, if it's weekly, bi-weekly, once a month, whatever it is for you, just check your exposures and make sure that your draft strategy and your exposures actually line up with what you want to be doing, whether that's a player take standpoint or a roster construction standpoint, whether it's wide receiver early, running back early, what have you. Just make sure you're not on autopilot, have an action plan, and actually do that.
Yeah, what was the phrase that I said early in the offseason? I feel like I need to rewrite it again. But it was draft as if you're right, knowing you could be wrong, but you need to be right at the right time. Something like that. And I remember what we did with the rookie tight ends last year. You and I were both in on Warren and Loveland. And at different parts of the season, first half of the season, all right, Warren was a smash pick. I had a ton of him. He was my guy. Loveland was a smash pick in the second half. They both ended up under 20% in terms of advance rates. So if you just had those guys and you were puffing your chest out saying, I took the rookie tight ends, guess what? That's actually not what you needed at the tight end position in 2025, which is shocking because they were so good. And so that's like the part of this game, in the game format of best ball, we need to realize like you can be right at certain points of the season, and yet it might not be what your team needs.
Yeah, that's for sure. The Loveland breakout unfortunately happened a little too late. Like, we needed that like 6 weeks earlier. And then the Warren thing was frustrating, right? Because Warren had an awesome season. And we talked about this in DFS every single week. It's like, hey, the Colts are going to throw to get ahead. But then in the second half, Daniel Jones would drop back like 12 times, right? So the volume wasn't there. But yeah, that's kind of part of this game, like you said, is there's certain weeks where you kind of need stuff to all hit. So when I think about that, like it's great to show people your exposures and be like, I have so much of this guy, but it's like you need the right combination of pieces around your player takes to make it all work. And obviously predicting that is impossible. So it's what makes this game, I think, elusive to figure out. And that makes it fun every year because it's not like just do this every year and you will win. That's not how it goes, right? So it's an evolving process that's really fun to talk through.
If you want all of our rankings, you can find them at ultimatedraftkit.com. Our best ball rankings, our best ball primer, our season-long player props. And as we get further into July, into August, we start dipping our toes in the DFS process. We actually have some really fun episodes as well coming up about our DFS process. We will have Chris Cash, one of our main DFS writers, especially on DraftKings. We'll get to pop in later this month and get to kind of talk through some of the process. So we have some really good episodes, really good things. UltimateDraftKit.com if you want to see our rankings. Before we get into our league winners, I do want to reverse course and ask a question on the opposite end of the spectrum, which is, who are some players that you have not taken very much? Some of that is on purpose, and then some of it is looking at your exposures and saying, I want to change this about this player, right? Like you can look up in early July and say, man, I only have like 5% of this player. I didn't intend to do that. That's just the way that the draft shook out, or I kept playing this other player combination. So who are the guys first? Let's first say I haven't been taking this guy very much. Like for instance, on this episode last year, I said I've taken 0% of Terry McLaurin. And I think I ended up at like 2 or 3%.
Jeez, Kyle, just dunk on the guy. Come on.
I mean, I have to.
Come on. the guys that I have not taken a lot of, it's not going to surprise anybody that is familiar with the background of what I do with the team here, is the injury guys. So I'm not taking a lot of Malik Neighbors right now. I haven't taken much Zach Charbonnet, George Kittle thus far, just kind of, trying to take a stance there. And obviously the Neighbors thing has worked well, that to the point now where I'm like, okay, maybe I want to get a couple shares, especially when he gets to the middle to back of the fourth round. Guys that I haven't taken a lot of yet that I do want to change, I'm only at 5% Cam Scatterbo. Health seems to be trending in a good direction, so we'll see on that. And then I've just had, paralysis on the Jaguars. Like obviously the offense projects well, Trevor Lawrence projects well, but it's like when you get to the range of the draft and you're like, you have to choose Brian Thomas Jr. or Parker Washington, I like panic and I'm like, dude, I don't know. So I just picked somebody else. So I do need to start mixing in some more Trevor Lawrence teams. And then one tight end, and this really isn't a player take standpoint, it's more just, it tells me the way that I've been drafting, is I haven't been drafting a lot of the tight ends that go around this pick 100-ish range where Harold Fannin goes. I only have 2% Harold Fannin, and after his rookie season, I definitely want to be a little higher than that. But that tells me I've been taking a lot of elite tight end, specifically Brock Bowers, or just punting it off and, throwing my darts on Gunnar Helm and Pat Freiermuth and Kate Otten and whoever else you want. So the middle range of tight end, I looked at all these guys. I'm a little bit low on, so I do need to switch that up.
No, that's another good way to look at this exercise is, okay, based on this percentage, am I taking tight ends in this range? Or am I taking players in this range where, I talked a lot about there's a certain tier of running back, like the Tony Pollard crew, and on until pick 120, where I'm like, man, I'm just not taking a lot of running backs in this range. And over the course of the summer, those ADPs have changed, but I still don't want to completely just box that out and say, I don't want any running backs the entire summer in this range. So at tight end, I agree with you. Like I'm trying to take a ton of Bowers. I have Loveland and Warren. We'll talk about another tight end today that I really like and I think can be a league winner. But yeah, that range scares me. And going back to the Parker Washington conversation, I have none so far. And that's too low. That's too low because there's another wide receiver in that wide receiver room that I have taken a lot of. And spoiler alert, it's not Jacoby Myers.
Oh, come on, Kyle. Dude, this is going to be so funny. All summer we debate Parker Washington, Brian Thomas, and Jacoby Myers is going to lead the team.
Jacoby Myers.
Has it been Travis Hunter? Is that your guy?
We'll talk about it. We'll see.
All right.
We'll see. Some guys that I haven't taken very much of. Neighbors is pretty low on the list. I did take him in a slow draft at the Foot Clan, so there's that. I have very little James Cook, and that terrifies me. I'm just saying that out loud. Like, I have 3% James Cook. He's lower in my ranking, so it makes sense that he'd be lower. But James Cook could go back out there and score 15 rushing touchdowns, and I look like an idiot. Rashee Rice, you've always known that I'm going to be low on Rashee Rice.
I don't think you've drafted him once.
No, dude. My rankings say don't do it. And when we ask our children, hey, what year were you born? They'll say, oh, I was the year that Rashee Rice got suspended. And they're like, oh, what year was that? It was every year of his career. Devontae Adams, I'm pretty low, but I want to highlight two wide receivers that I want to change my exposures. It's Mekhi Lemon, I'm at 5%, and DJ Moore. And DJ Moore's at 3%. DJ Moore is not a player that I think you and I have touted very much. Like, we've kind of said, like, hey, a little bit older, changing teams. Like, there's lots of red flags. The highlight is he could be Josh Allen's wide receiver one, which really hasn't mattered very much since Diggs left town. But I know the right tail outcomes for a player being drafted around wide receiver 27. And he could be wide receiver 16 or wide receiver 18. And I think that he can be a valuable player for this team. So to me, that feels a little low. And more so looking at a player like DJ Moore and saying, like, what if I'm like a little wrong? It's one thing to say, like, I'm very, very wrong and he's a top 10 wide receiver. Like, what if I'm just like a little off and he's like a solid wide receiver too?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely possible. And, the risk on DJ Moore comes back to his numbers last year. That's what everybody talks about, right? He's an older wide receiver, relatively speaking. Changing teams, historically, the hit rate on these guys is pretty low. Obviously, he kind of got phased out in the Bears situation where there was some, he wasn't on the same page a lot with Caleb, and Loveland came on and Burden came on and all these guys, and DJ Moore kind of got phased out as far as what he's used to from a target share standpoint. So there's a lot of people that are saying, hey, man, like, it's probably over soon for DJ Moore. But also, like, what if he just goes to Buffalo and Buffalo kind of has egg on their face if they don't hyper target him, right? It's like all of the media. Brandon Beane is like getting in arguments on radio about the wide receivers that they have, and they're throwing Keon Coleman under the bus. And it's like, if they don't hyper target DJ Moore, don't you think they'll feel a little silly after sending a 2nd-round pick for him? So a part of me is like, dude, Josh Allen is Josh Allen. Like, don't you want some DJ Moore? And I think, to me, the way that I'm going to treat this is I'll probably still come in a little under the field, but I definitely want more than what I have right now, which is 1%, which is nothing, basically. So,
right.
And part of that is, too, that I wasn't drafting a lot of Josh Allen because relative to Jane Daniels, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, I just prefer the costs relative to savings. But now, actually, Josh Allen on Underdog sometimes will fall to the 4th round. And it's like, okay, Josh Allen in the 4th round is probably an awesome pick. But like on DraftKings, like he still will go at like 19th overall sometimes. And it's like, okay, I'm not doing that. So I actually have most of my exposure to DJ Moore. When I say most, it's like, 5 teams on Underdog. I haven't gotten him at all on DraftKings just because the Josh Allen drafter always pulls him up around. And it's like, I don't want to be doing that. But the point is, I think we both see a world where this is like, oh, how could you not have been on this, in hindsight? So I'm with you. I definitely want to come in under the field, but I definitely want more than I have right now.
I think one of the ways you can also take this exercise is just looking at the wide receivers and asking yourself the question like you did. Okay, what do I have with the quarterbacks here? Because a lot of times you're in the room and the Josh Allen manager is drafting DJ Moore, a couple spots ahead of ADP because they want to complete a stack. It's like, well, obviously I'm not going to get DJ Moore there. Mekhi Lemon was the one I want to bring up because I feel pretty bullish on the Eagles. And I know that you have your fan takes, but I think from our analytics takes, like, okay, here's room for a bounce back from this team. I have a ton of Jalen Hurts. I have a ton of Devonta Smith. I have a ton of Saquon. And I looked up and I was like, I need more Mekhi Lemon in this mix to be able to complete some team stacks. So that was just all I was identifying. Like, I wasn't avoiding him. It's just he wasn't on as many teams.
Yeah, makes sense. And I think right now it's easy to kind of not be so into him because he's missed some time with the hamstring and he's kind of fallen a little bit as a result of that. So I think if you haven't gotten a lot of him, it's a decent time to grab some, especially if you're drafting on DraftKings where, the Q tag has a big effect on people and he has fallen a decent amount in the last 3 to 4 weeks.
Let's take a quick break and then we'll talk about our best ball champion league winners, best players ever picks for 2026.
When it comes to your yard, reliability matters. Shop with confidence at the Home Depot and get 4th of July savings on Ryobi, the #1 cordless outdoor power brand. It's time to choose your power. Both the Ryobi 18-volt and 40-volt self-propelled mower kits are on special buy for an even lower price of $429 each, was $479. Ryobi's battery platform delivers the power, runtime, and dependability you need to tackle yard work with ease. Shop 4th of July savings on Ryobi outdoor power only at the Home Depot. While supplies last, pricing valid June 25th through July 8th. US only. See store online for details.
Carter's has your family covered for every summer first steps, first swim lesson, or first sleepover. Our clothes help kids and parents shine, thanks to comfy design and easy dressing details. Visit Carters.com to shop the latest styles or find a Carter's store near you.
I feel like league winners gets overused, so I wanted to keep expanding and figuring out a way. Champions, we've used that before on this episode. Best picks ever, the only picks you need to make, you can pick these and log out. That was another suggestion.
And that's going to hit beautifully in the SEO. So that's great.
Yeah, I want to give you a little, before I hit the drop, little stroll down memory lane. 2022, who could forget? Betz touting Ramondre Stevenson. That's pretty good.
That was the year you overtook Damian Harris.
Dude, that was a great pick. I just remember all summer I was like, I think this is good. Like I wasn't against it, but I was also like not as bullish. But that was definitely a really good call. Chris Olave, apparently I picked that year, but I feel like I picked him for a long time.
Every single year.
2023, Joe Mixon on the Texans, I believe.
We might need to fact check that. Was that Texans or was that Bengals? Let me look.
Ooh. Check which one. 2023. Let's see. Dave Montgomery, Josh Allen that year. 2024, Jaden Daniels was like the quarterback we kept pounding the table for. James Cook, great year. Chase Brown. And then last year, we'll go through some of those this episode, but I would just say the crowning achievement on last year's episode was us talking about CMC.
Christian McCaffrey. Yes. Joe Mixon's unbelievable year in 2023 was his last year in Cincy.
Nice. All right. So, we're tooting our own horn here, but we'll also tell you about some of our mistakes from last year.
Best Ball Bonanza.
So the way that this works is, we could just look at our rankings and say, here's players that we're higher on than consensus. We actually do have some criteria for each position. So we'll go quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end, and give you a couple of things that we look for in forecasting these players. So at quarterback last year, we had Justin Herbert, which probably was a me pick. Like I can't imagine not talking about Justin Herbert. And Dak Prescott, and I need to give you some props here. Dak Prescott ended up with the highest advance rate of any quarterback last year at 29%. He was going at 109th overall. We're getting a little bit of a different Dak price this year, but for both of those players, like Herbert had a really good run. We did talk about him running the ball more, and he had, the highest scramble rate of his career, ended up tailing off at the end of the year. But I felt good about both of those picks. At the end of the day, at quarterback, it kind of depends on the ADP of the player when you're saying, what does this player need to do? What is the opportunity cost? So if they can give you 3 awesome spike weeks and they are around 15, 16, 17 pick, like that's all you need for that position. For the top guys, you need 7 top 10 performances, and the advance rate we look for is 20%. Just looking over, best ball, Underdog best ball since 2021. That's kind of what we're looking for is the cutoff, 20+%. Last year, we had 9 quarterbacks hit that mark. But at the quarterback position, before we get into our picks, like anything you're looking for, like, hey, here's the criteria I'm looking for like a league winner.
Nothing in particular as far as numbers are concerned, but the way that I view this selection is like a player that I think has a strong bet to not just beat their ADP, more from like points per game standpoint, but sustain weeks where they're in your lineup routinely. Not just like, oh, he spiked a couple times. Like this guy's in your lineup routinely, he's beating ADP, and he's also providing spike weeks on top of that, giving you some of those 20, 25-point games in the highest outcomes, 29, 30-point games that these elite guys are capable of. So you need to be able to spike, in my opinion, and you have to be able to just kind of sustain it throughout the year. It's not super, super helpful if the players that we talk about today are guys that come into your lineup and they have a huge game and they disappear for 4 weeks, right? Like when you're a league winner in best ball, usually you're not just a spike week player, you're kind of sustaining throughout the entire season. And it's hard to predict this, but more importantly, a guy that is going off in the playoffs, which predicting what's going to happen in late December, not easy to do, but that's something I'm considering too.
Also with quarterback, because we have a different landscape with the ADPs pushed up, like we just have this log jam once we get to like 80, 90, 100, like just all of these guys in the same range, it does become a little bit more difficult. Like looking at last year and who crushed for best ball, it was Dak at 29%. Stafford was an awesome pick, but he's going 166 off the board. We don't get those type of prices anymore, like for this type of player. Josh Allen, Drake May was also one of the players that we talked about the most last year at 115th overall. Daniel Jones, 198th. Sam Darnold, 180th. Like, that's the problem I have in this exercise is we're just not getting the same prices at all for these guys. You and I have talked routinely about, man, when you go late, it's like Mendoza, Rodgers, Bryce Young. Like, it's very hard to peg one of them as a league winner. And the last little caveat I want to give is that over the last 5 years, if you're looking at all the quarterbacks taken with a top 100 pick, so these are really good players, or for instance, this year, it's the first 13 quarterbacks, only a third of them hit the 20+% advance rate mark. So, like, it's easy to look at these players and say they're very, very good. Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, all these guys that we definitely would want on our teams. But the question is, what do they have to do at their ADP for you to justify taking them? And they really have to have a crazy elite season. Joe Burrow did have one of those a couple years ago where his advance rate was like 40%. And it was because of how good they were down the stretch, how good they were in the fantasy playoffs. That's the hard part I have is I look at these quarterback prices this year and I say to myself, all of these are great players. All of them could do it, but you are going through a minefield of these guys and saying, if I'm taking them with a top 100 pick, they have to be great. Not like good, great. Now, as the ADPs get pushed down, they don't have to be great. They just have to be very, very good. And I think your pick is probably one of the sharper ones of like, all right, his ADP is basically saying like, we know what he is, but over the last 4 years, he's been awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And I went with that like secondary bucket of the quarterback range that I like to draft in. especially because, like you said, things are all pushed up. And so there is this need to be like, if I don't get at least one here, I might be screwed. And I like to kind of take one of the cheaper-ish elite and then pair it with somebody else in this range, like the quarterback 12 to like 15, 16, 17 type range. The guy I'm bringing up here, go with Jared Goff. Jared Goff, King Goffrey, quarterback 16 off the board in ADP. And really, to me, it's a very simple take. I want to be heavily invested in the Lions this year because of the fact that they have the easiest schedule in the NFL. We know they're going to play a ton of games in a dome. And when you look at the look-ahead lines for Vegas totals, they are second in average team total. And just from a projection standpoint, like when you think about a weekly projection, a team that is projected for that many touchdowns, obviously we're going to give a bunch of those to Jahmyr Gibbs. Jared Goff is going to project well most weeks. Now, he is a guy, because he is a pocket passer, that will ebb and flow. You need those multiple touchdown games to pay it off because, of course, he's going to give you nothing with his legs. But all we've seen from Jared Goff since he came to Detroit is top-end fantasy production. Over the last 3 years, he has beaten this ADP every year in points per game among quarterbacks with 6 starts. He was quarterback 11, quarterback 7, quarterback 13. And while that doesn't seem like that's a guy that's going to give you a league-winning performance necessarily, I think with Jared Goff, you feel so good about the floor that you're getting that as my quarterback 2, which is what I'm drafting him to be, I'm going to have him hit my lineup multiple times. But we also see these game scripts sometimes, the Lions, where Jared Goff will throw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns and give you those spike weeks where he can give you 23, 24 points. He's done that multiple times. And so for me, it's just a bet on the Lions, the schedule, and the path to success for this team. He gets Sam Laporta back. That helps. I think the screen game is going to be more efficient because Gibbs is going to be on the field even more this year. And so for me, it's just a bet on the offense in general with a price that I think is too cheap for the upside that the Lions have. I also was doing a thought exercise, kind of thinking through, with Dave Montgomery gone and Sam Laporta back, do you think we could see the Lions become more pass heavy in the red zone? I know last year was an outlier example in Arizona with how much they were trailing and everything, but they were among the league leaders in red zone pass rate over expectation with Drew Petzing. So I think it's at least something to consider. But even if we just see kind of the status quo of what we've seen from the Lions in the last couple of years, I looked at our projections and he's a super strong bet to beat ADP. In the UDK, corporate is projecting 4,500 passing yards and 36 touchdowns. That felt hot to me. And so I wanted to compare. I looked at Mike Clay's projections. He's got him right behind Stafford in yardage, 4,200. He's got him 4th in the league in touchdown passes at 29. So consensus, this is a player that projects extremely well, yet he's buried in ADP because he doesn't run. I still think the upside is there. So give me Jared Goff at quarterback 16.
I love it. And yeah, I mean, corporate, they're just trying to make sure that they pad the stockholders, pockets. Like that's why the projections are so hot. I was looking at where he went last year. So last year he went 118th off the board, QB 15. This year he's QB 16, 108th currently. So because of the ADP landscape, he looks like he's a little bit more expensive, but he's actually going further relative to the position. And I'm with you. If this is a team I'm buying into, I don't need him at quarterback 16 to be my QB1. Like, that's the best part of who he's always been, is like, the spike games, the indoor games, the narratives surrounding that. His price relative to what he's accomplished the last couple of years should probably be more like QB 10 or QB 11. Like, that's who he's been. So I love this. I love the Lions offense. We will be talking about a Lions player later on in this episode. Pro tease.
Love that. I also think, if you think about last year's team with the Lions, they were involved in a lot of shootouts. They had a lot of injuries defensively. But man, I was looking at their depth chart again, and it's like, I don't know if they're going to be that good, especially in the secondary. Like, they've got some major issues. Obviously, Terrion Arnold situation happened. He's not on the team. Brian Branch tore his Achilles in December, and Kirby Joseph has a chronic knee issue that Dan Campbell said, quote, I don't know, when asked about his playing future. So I think we're going to see some shootouts again from this team. And obviously, we know Dan Campbell is willing to play that way. And even when they're up by 2 touchdowns, he is not going to take his foot off the gas. So give me the Lions this year.
I love it. I think that's a great selection. I have Jaden Daniels, somebody that we've talked about a lot. And it really comes down to this. The type of players we bet on in fantasy football at the quarterback position is really just simple, like, do you run the ball? And yet his price is not really baking in that. It's more of like the stench of what the Commanders were at the end of the year is kind of holding over. But let's consider how high his rushing floor is. Like that just you can talk about injuries, you can talk about everything else, but like in 2024 as a rookie, he had 148 rush attempts and 75 of them were scrambles. That's not just good. That was the best ever at the quarterback position. Set the all-time record. Last year, through his first 6 starts, he was on pace for even more rush attempts with an even higher scramble rate. And then we dealt with injuries. We dealt with the change in offensive coordinator. And I think that stench is leading people to kind of believe like, the Commanders had a good run that one year. This is a new team. We don't really know their weapons. And it kind of is leaving people in this place of just not being active, like, and not, pursuing him. If you go in other metrics of looking at who is the best quarterback, the most efficient in EPA per pass attempt, under center without play action, it's Jaden Daniels by a long mile over the last 4 years. It's him. And they're going to be incorporating that a lot more this year in David Blau's system as opposed to Cliff Kingsbury. So I really think it comes down to the price, which is not that expensive compared to what it was in years past. And then who are you stacking him up with? And I'm not going to list Chigakonkwo as the league winner, but man, I love me some Chigakonkwo. We'll talk about some other Commanders players. I think they're probably the team relative to price that you and I are the highest on, like compared to the market of any team this year, I think.
For sure. Yeah, I love Jaden Daniels. He's currently number 1 right now in my exposures at quarterback, and it's just because the price is so intriguing for the upside that exists. And I think about like ADP shifting because Terry McLaurin is the stacking partner. We talked about this before. You can sometimes push him, and so you'll get him in the 70s at times. And it's like, man, I just want to make that bet more often than not on a quarterback that we know is capable, if things break right, as finishing as the overall quarterback 1 in fantasy. I did want to just kind of nudge people more to kind of look at the David Blau situation, like you said, because with Cliff, Jaden Daniels took 32 total dropbacks from under center over the last 2 years combined. And yes, he was injured for part of the season last year, but just in a year and a half, basically, 32 total times this guy was under center to drop back and pass. And we just know you have to adapt to the NFL, and Cliff just was not doing that. So I think the scheme is going to open up a lot more for Jaden Daniels, and obviously that'll make the offense more efficient. So I love this call. I'm right there with you this year.
All right, so Jaden Daniels, Jared Goff are 2 league-winning choices. If you want to give a bonus pick, this isn't like to give us credit. I'm just telling you these are the players that I have a ton of my exposure. So I'm going to give a couple bonus quarterbacks. Brock Purdy and Tyler Shuck, 2 guys that made the short list.
I like both of those for sure. Let me pull up my exposures real quick and just make sure I'm not lying, because the actual top 2 are Jared Goff and Jaden Daniels. Justin Herbert is up there and Tyler Shuck as well.
Okay, cool. I like our group this year. It's a fun group,
Good mix.
Good group. Great group. Let's go to running back. Last year we had CMC and Devon Achane, which felt like amazing. Amazing that in a year where running backs were awesome, we didn't like pivot to saying like our league winners like Chuba Hubbard or somebody else like really later, but we stayed with the mix and that felt really, really good. What we're looking for at the running back position is what we call sustained greatness. So you got to give me at least, depending on your ADP, like you need at least 5 top 12 weeks wherever you're going in this list. But if you're an elite running back, I need you to have an elite season. So Achane, even on a bad team, was great, and we know CMC was great. You also kind of have to play this game where certain years the other elite running backs have to fail in order for your running backs to truly hit. Last year, we didn't really see that, but you remember a couple years ago in 2023, that was the year that we had Joe Mixon on that list and Dave Montgomery. And it was because CMC, I don't know if you remember, Eckler was still like a first-round pick.
Yes.
That's like painful.
That's wild.
That doesn't feel that long ago, does it?
That was his last year with the Chargers, I believe.
Yeah. Bijan was a first-round pick as a rookie, so that was kind of like a big deal. Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Henry, all those guys failed, and they were all like first-round or like top 15 picks. So you kind of have to play a game at the running back position. We look at an advance rate above 22%. That there's usually about 10 running backs that hit that. Last year, Jonathan Taylor blew the doors off. 49% advance rate for Jonathan Taylor. So if you had him on your team, you pretty much were almost there to advance. Gibbs and McCaffrey. So those 3 running backs were so elite last year that if you even paired them together, like you easily could have paired a Gibbs and Jonathan Taylor team. Like that team would have crushed. But some of the other running backs I wanted to bring up were Rico Dowdle, who's going 177th overall. Javonte Williams, if you picked him instead of, I don't know, Jaden Blue. And then Travis Etienne Jr. was an awesome pick, especially down the stretch when the Jaguars went on a run. Those were all really, really good running backs. You kind of need a mix here, right? Like, because the ADP skews towards elite running backs being good, you can't just say, I'm not drafting them at all. But you also need to be able to find guys going later that can actually hit your lineup and be valuable. So that's kind of the dance. Like, we both have the same player I want to get out of the way first. The elite running back we're both bullish on is Saquon this year. And
I'll let you take the lead on this one.
It's a couple of things. One, it is that this is not the same offense. And that's the part that I love betting on, that there's a variable, there's a new play caller in town, Sean Mannion. There's a new offensive scheme. And then Saquon had 13 carries inside the 5 last year. It resulted in 1 rushing touchdown. That will not repeat. Like, that is an outlier, wild season. So that is one of those things that I'm just like, okay, Saquon still finished as an RB1 last year, and yet it felt like he was RB30 to a lot of people. I think where he's going in your drafts, he can fit your hero RB builds. And this is an offense that I want to buy in like multiple places. So I think Saquon in the second round is a steal. I would be gladly drafting him around pick 10. That's where he goes for me.
Yeah, love it. I mean, I think the easiest way to think about this is just, when a player does something that Saquon did 2 years ago when they went on the Super Bowl run, it's so easy to be like, this is really, really, really unlikely to happen. And he went 2nd, 3rd, 4th overall the following season last year because of that. And now it's like, okay, we're getting a little discount, and it's not huge, right? He's still going early in round 2, but we're getting a discount on that because it was disappointing. But you kind of wipe the slate clean and you think about the player. I don't think he personally fell off. I think what happened is a myriad of things. One is just natural regression. You're not going to run for 40 yard touchdowns every single game. That is going to regress, and surely enough, it did. The offensive line was super healthy the year prior. Last year, they had some injuries. Lane Johnson missed a bunch of time. He's back. Cam Jurgens and another player I'm blanking on went to get stem cell treatment, Kyle, this offseason, left the country to get healthy. So offensive line projects to be healthier. I think the scheme will be more friendly. So just, ways to get more creative and more efficiency out of Saquon makes a ton of sense. So I'm with you. Market still expects the Eagles to be good, and obviously you want players on good teams. So I'm with you on Saquon.
Yeah, he's the elite running back that we are deeming a league winner, and that's kind of like a shared one. But we did want to give a couple situations of teams, players that were like, hey, we're buying into this team at maybe a different level than just like, hey, draft these elite running backs. So I will let you go first. And I will say I'm scared of this pick. I'm not against it, but I'm not saying I'm 100% for it.
Cool, you hate it. The fellow Eagles fans that are listening are screaming at me like, how could you even not know these guys? Landon Dickerson and Cam Jurgens were the two I was thinking of that I blanked on. But the pick that I'm going to make, and I will caveat this, it's very hard, I think, in today's ADP landscape to find like later round guys that you feel so good about because the rookie class was not good. There's not a lot of great value picks. All the running backs are pushed up. So it's hard to find guys like going in around 10 to 15 that I'm like, oh, this guy could really smash. So I'm viewing this player more through ADP overall running back landscape, not where he goes overall. I will say I'm not going to get out over my exposures on this player because he goes 52nd overall, around where some of the wide receivers that I love this year also go. But one guy that I definitely want more exposure to than I thought I was going to have this year is DeAndre Swift. And if you
everyone
listen
was
to
like
me,
waiting for you to say the name, and then
I just never say it. I just give clues until people figure it out. If you listen to me over the years, like I've been in and out on DeAndre Swift throughout his career, which he had a couple exciting seasons in Detroit. Philly was fine, and then obviously there was some question marks on what would happen here in Chicago. And really, again, this is less about DeAndre Swift, and it's more about the Bears and trying to find a piece to get exposure to that's, again, relatively speaking, cheaper. Everybody is trying to figure out Loveland or Burden, and they are, of course, pushed up as a result. I want some exposure to those guys too, don't get me wrong. But you can get a piece of this Ben Johnson offense in the 50s, and to me, that's a bet I want to make for a offense that finished 9th in points per game last year, and right now they're projected again in look-ahead totals to be in the top 10. You also think about the offensive line. It's a consensus top 5, top 8 unit, depending on where you look in the league. So they have the offensive line, they've got the play caller, they've got projections on their side, And looking at Kyle Monangai, I know that's kind of the argument against Swift. Really, like, to me, I think there's enough meat on the bone for both of these guys to have weeks where they hit your lineup. But DeAndre Swift was far better than Kyle Monangai in basically every important metric you're looking at. Rushing yards over expected per attempt, yards after contact, missed tackles forced, yards per carry, whatever you want to look at. DeAndre Swift was better, and DeAndre Swift has some of the usage in the pass game. So when I'm thinking about just simplistic view of a running back in fantasy, a pass catching role, a good offense, a creative scheme, a good offensive line, like DeAndre Swift checks all the boxes. I don't think he's a perfect player, but I do think Ben Johnson has gotten the best out of him with the scheme upgrade. And so I do think he's a really strong pick where he goes, especially because, again, in this landscape, all the running backs are pushed up. DeAndre Swift kind of just floats around RB20 to RB24 every year, and all this guy does is outproduces ADP. So I am taking some DeAndre Swift this year. It's scary, don't get me wrong, but I definitely am interested in buying into the Bears offense. He's a cheap-ish way to do that.
Man, I thought I knew you. I thought I understood who you were, where you've come from, and you've just...
And to be clear, if this doesn't work, Saquon Barkley is my answer.
So Mike somehow has morphed into a DeAndre Swift guy this year. And I'm Mike's co-manager on his main team. We had DeAndre Swift like 2 or 3 years ago. I think it was the Eagles year. Maybe it was the year before in the Lions. I don't know. Whatever it was
frustrating.
It wounded us so much that he became Mike's like most hated player.
Yeah.
And so I've known Mike for a while. If he hates something, he digs in. And the thing is, I do too. So we both just dug in for so long, like DeAndre Swift, not even on our draft board. And this is redraft stuff. I think if I was telling you this earlier, if I could draft Bears running back as a position, I would be very happy with it. I feel like there will be weeks that ping pong. From week 12 on last year, it did shift a little bit, where it was basically almost a 50-50 timeshare in terms of a workload. And I know that they were saving him for the playoffs too. So there was like a little bit of like...
He also battled a groin injury as well, but points taken.
Yeah. I love the offense. I love the scheme. I'm still reading right now at the beach, Outside Zones. Just finished that whole chapter, Outside Zones with Ben Johnson.
How did it go? What'd you learn?
Just that they run so many, like a myriad of different things from the same look, that outside zone is like, not that special in the NFL, but when you can do it with a tight end and then play action with a tight end like Colston Loveland, it just sets up so many things. Like it looks like the exact same play of a DeAndre Swift outside zone run to a play action, and then you get Loveland out in space. That's the cool part. Is like you want to keep mirroring that. I think we're saying that this offense, it took a step forward last year. I don't even think it has to be top 5 this year for it to pay off, because we have all these other pieces. My biggest issue is just I feel like I'm going to pick the wrong bear at cost between Swift, Odunze, Burden, and Loveland.
Just get a little bit of each.
That's kind of what I have been doing. I think they're all good picks. I want to find out who's great. So DeAndre Swift, if it's right, Betz is a genius. If it's wrong, it was Saquon Barkley.
That's right.
He's the true Eagles running back, right? Like Swift like crawled on the ground so that Saquon could run 80 yards down the field.
That's correct.
All right, so I want to highlight, some people are going to think I'm stupid, the Chargers.
Every year.
I think I'm just calling Chargers backfield here because I like Hampton at cost. I think Keaton Mitchell's an interesting play where he goes, and I even think Kamani Vidal is not an air ball with your last pick if you want to go there. This is just a completely different scheme. We have to understand with Mike McDaniel here, everything's changing from who's on the field, because they're going to do a lot of 21 personnel with a fullback. They're going to do a lot more 12 personnel with 2 tight ends. It's going to be very different. The Chargers last year ranked dead last in rush success rate with 12 personnel on the field. And there are certain teams that are better when they have 11 personnel on the field and worse when they're 12. Like Travion Henderson, I know I'm talking about a different team, was horrific with 12 personnel last year and awesome at 11 personnel just because of his skill set and space. If you look at Omarion Hampton last year, when they ran the ball in a zone scheme, he was 53rd of 55 running backs. I don't have the drop, sorry. When he did man or gap scheme, he was 5th best in the NFL. And that was like a Greg Roman thing. So this team's Achilles heel last year running the ball was, we can't do it in 12 personnel, and we don't have a zone running scheme. They bring in Mike McDaniel, who is that guy. Like, that's his bread and butter. That's what he's been so good in the NFL, is zone-based running scheme and using different sets, especially with a fullback on the field. So I think overall the running game is going to be really effective. And last year, Hampton, I know it was an abbreviated season. He played 4 games, then he got hurt, and then he came back. But like, he was good on a per-touch basis. If you want to just stack him up against other running backs, he was really, really good. And he's always been a force tackle machine. That's what he was great at in college. That's what he's going to be great at in the pros. So I think I'm just buying into this team overall. When he was on the field, Hampton saw 30% of the team's rush attempts and targets. That's a good workload. And then I think what McDaniel's been good at and what he was great at in Miami and even back in San Francisco is involving multiple running backs in the scheme. So if it was Mostert and Achane in Miami, he could do that. If it was Mostert and a bunch of other random dudes, like, I think they can all be. The problem I have with Mitchell, and you're bringing it up right here to me, is his ADP has risen to a point where he's a hot name. I'm trying to get exposure to multiple Chargers here, so I'm okay where he goes. I don't think it's a great ADP anymore. It used to be around 150. Now we're looking in the 130s. But I do like Vidal.
Expensive.
I like Vidal as a dart throw.
I don't think it's crazy that Vidal ends up having more touches than Keaton Mitchell.
Yes.
Like that's totally possible, yet the market is saying, like, for sure, Keaton Mitchell is the RB2. And I think that's possible. We just don't really know. But for me, like, when I look at Keaton Mitchell's ADP, it's like, this guy sometimes will go at pick 130. And it's like, man, you can get tight ends that project very well. Sometimes you need some wide receiver depth. That's part of the quarterback window. Like, the window is closing at quarterback, and sometimes you need quarterback there. So I just haven't taken Mitchell much just because he's getting more expensive. But I think the bullish case is betting into the offense and betting into Marion Hampton being a former first-round NFL draft pick and showing plenty of fantasy life as an awesome producer when he was healthy last year. And now you get a big scheme upgrade, And then also the biggest issue for the Chargers last year was the line health. Now you get those guys back healthy, a line that projects to be a top 10 unit. So again, for the 4th year in a row, let's buy into the Chargers and get hurt.
Let's do it. Let's see what happens, Let's take a quick break, and we'll talk wide receivers and tight ends.
Heat up your 4th of July at the Home Depot with our wide variety of grills under $300 and make every gathering one to remember. Give your outdoor space a glow up, whatever your budget is, with savings on seasonal plants starting at $5. With the grill fired up and your backyard set to perfection, you'll be able to invite friends and family over to kick off the party. Start celebrating with low prices guaranteed at the Home Depot. Prices may vary by store. Exclusions apply. See homedepot.com/price match for details.
Carter's has your family covered for every summer first. First steps, first swim lesson, or first sleepover. Our clothes help kids and parents have their best summer ever, thanks to comfy design and easy dressing details. Generations of families have trusted our must-haves for babies, toddlers, and kids. Designed to shine season after season. Visit Carters.com to shop the latest styles or find a Carter's store near you.
All right, it's honesty time because we are talking about league winners at the wide receiver position, and I need to confess, we kind of airballed last year. It was not great. We got to be honest. So Drake London was a pick for me, who, if you're in a best ball league where you only do a per route basis, I mean, come on, crushed it. But overall, the offense, he got hurt. Penix, it was not great down the stretch for him. And then we also highlighted the San Francisco wide receivers, where San Francisco overall was a good unit. Purdy got hurt. They kind of ping-ponged between who the guy was. So just kind of not a great feeling, but I had to be honest.
Honesty is good. You know the problem with this, Kyle? PCL injuries. They are ruining this game that we love. Drake London, PCL injury. Ricky Pearsall, PCL injury. Brock Bowers last year, PCL injury. I mean, come on. I think you're beating yourself up a little bit too much on London. He was so good before the injury happened. Like, I'm looking at like the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games before the end of injury. Weekly top 7 receiver in 6 of those.
Okay.
So if he had sustained health, perhaps we're looking at this differently. I think the problem with London, as far as being an expensive guy last year, was all the expensive running backs were so good that, like, if you didn't leave round 2 with Jonathan Taylor or Devon Achane or something like that, relatively speaking, the wide receivers there were disappointing.
The wide receivers who crushed last year, who were above 23% advance rate, were JSN at 40%, George Pickens at 36%. And then some of the other ones that are interesting to me, Michael Pittman, who didn't feel great, but going basically, before he was going this year, 94th overall, 29% advance rate. Wandale. I mean, I'm sure last year I made fun of Wandale on this podcast. Like, why would I ever take him?
I think in the show that we did the draft on, you took him and you were like, I'd rather, I forget what the phrase you said, but you were like, I would rather not do this. And you're like, I guess I need a wide receiver. I'll take Wandale. And you just get 140 targets. You know what? Pick 170. It's beautiful.
Yeah, Wandale was great, 27%. Some other guys, Kayshon Boutte did really, really well. Devontae Adams, Chris Olave, Quentin Johnston. Every single year just shows up on this list.
Huge.
I know. I didn't add another Charger to this year, but at wide receiver, because you're taking so many, there's a myriad of reasons you could take somebody, especially if they're elite, or if they're in the middle rounds, you're basically saying they can beat their ADP. If they're going later, our refrain has always been, man, this guy's going to be on the field more than people realize. There's a route for him to see, 7 touchdowns this year, or there's a route for this guy to see 100 plus targets, which is what Wandale was. Like, hey, what if he's 100? What if he's 140 targets? So there's a myriad of reasons why you could take a player, but I'm going to let you go first.
I said that I wanted to have kids, and you said that you wanted me to have a vasectomy. What did I do? And then, when you said that you might want to have kids, and I wasn't so sure, who had this vasectomy reversed? And then when you said you definitely didn't want to have kids, who had it reversed back? Snip, snap, snip, snap, snip, snap. I did. Okay. You have no idea the physical toll that vasectomies have on a person.
Oh, my goodness.
Snip, snap.
I love that scene so much. You have no idea the physical toll. The snip snap wide receiver that basically is the official snip snap wide receiver of this show is Terry McLaurin. Because 2 years ago, we could not have been more in. Last year, we could not have been more out. This year, we could not be more in.
We are back.
We're going with the stack. Jaden and Terry, which if you listen to the show at any point this offseason, you probably heard us already talk about it, but just to kind of hammer home some of the stuff Kyle was talking about earlier, with Cliff, it was very much, Terry, you line up on the left, you're going to run this select few routes, and if it works, great, and if it doesn't, that's we're going to live and die by that with Jaden and shotgun. And so this year, they're already talking about getting Terry McLaurin in motion more, getting him in the slot more, getting him lined up in a diverse way, running more routes, getting more easy button type stuff to him, and letting Jaden use play action and go under center, which we know will elevate the efficiency. And so I look at the depth chart, and yes, they could be the Steph Diggs team. In theory, if Brandon Ayuk ever stops posting online, he could be the answer here. Like, they probably will add to this room at some point, but I'm not that worried right now about Chigakonkwo, Antonio Williams, Treylon Burks, Van Jefferson. I think if we look up at the end of the year and Terry McLaurin is one of the very few wide receivers in the league that sees 32+% target share, I would not be surprised by that because the depth chart right now is incredibly weak. And the price is far less than what I think it should be for a player with a lot of upside. I'm always a little hesitant buying into guys that are another year older, and obviously Terry's not in his prime anymore, but he was still really good last year despite all the issues Washington had. He missed all of training camp with a holdout. He had the injuries in season. Even through all of that, Terry McLaurin still averaged 2.38 yards per out run in 2025. So I still think he has it, and obviously if the scheme is as good as we think it could be, I think he could be one of those players you needed this year. So give me Terry McLaurin, wide receiver 23 off the board.
It's also interesting when you're in a draft room and you take Terry McLaurin, you can kind of push Jaden Daniels with the rest of your room, who is like, well, I obviously don't have another Washington player on the board for a while, right? Like the next one you're looking at is one of the running backs. Like you're at a point where you are daring everybody else to take a naked Jaden Daniels.
Right.
And I love that in your room where you're just like, okay, well, I'm taking Terry McLaurin to be my wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, whatever it is. And then you look at Jaden Daniels where he's going 67th overall right now. Like you can push him into the 70s easily based on where you're at on the board because nobody else, if they're not buying into Jaden Daniels and they're staying away because they don't have a stack, then it like benefits your team a lot. So that's just like the extra part of like where he's going in the draft that like makes me feel really comfortable.
For sure. And the other thing too about Terry, when I think about his big plays, it's always been these kind of deep yardage type touchdowns. I think he could be way more involved in the red zone than we realized. If you think about last year's roster, and this is kind of silly to say in hindsight, but their top 2 target earners in the red zone were Debo and Zach Ertz, and those guys are gone. Like, Jaden has loved Zach Ertz in the red zone. That is gone. So maybe that's Chig, but I really think the answer is going to be Terry.
Yeah, of all the play callers this year, I highlighted Mike McDaniel earlier, but I think David Blau is one of those that I feel like people are not baking in what this offense could be. I'm not saying it has to be top 5, but there's room, and the market is basically saying this is still going to be like a meh unit.
For sure.
So I like David Blau as a play caller, and we'll see where that goes. All right, my player feels a little risky.
Duval.
But I got to go for it. I got to look at my exposures, look at my gut, look at the criteria, and say that Brian Thomas Jr. is one of those players that I will just say I'm in. I'm in at wide receiver 31. You know about his rookie year because he blew the doors off. Here are the wide receivers since 2014 to finish top 5 as a rookie. Odell Beckham Jr., Jamar Chase, Puka Nacua, Brian Thomas Jr. End of list. Okay? It wasn't just a really good rookie year. It was a great rookie season. And then the sophomore year, we could say rough is an understatement. He had the lowest advance rate of any wide receiver in my database over the last 5 years. He was that bad. If you took Brian Thomas Jr., I think your advance rate was 3.8%. So just that's how bad it was. And the sting of it is if you took him last year, you're probably not taking him as much because of how bad it was. I'm not paying that price, though. That's the best part. Like, I'm not paying a top 60 price right now, even. He's going right outside that in the 6th round. The biggest difference between his rookie year and his sophomore year is that he had a play caller in who decided to change things up.
Duval.
That's the funniest thing about Liam Cohen is like, he's a good play caller. He's a great play caller. He revitalized the Bucs after Tom Brady, with Baker Mayfield. He led the Jaguars to a great season. But for Brian Thomas Jr., he kind of ruined his role. And a lot of that's on BTJ and his drops and all those other things. But he went from basically the most valuable wide receiver in the NFL behind the line of scrimmage and one of the most valuable in the slot to he was barely in the slot. It was just 25% of his routes, and they threw him one screen target behind the line of scrimmage. That's just odd to me. I know we're looking at analytics and numbers, and I'm comparing the 2 seasons, but Liam Cohen before the season had all of these comments saying, I didn't know he was that good in the slot. I didn't know he was that good behind the line of scrimmage. He saw that on film, and then they didn't really integrate that in the offense. He wasn't really that part of it. If they do run into more 12 personnel stuff, which is what they've talked about, which is what they drafted this year, drafting a tight end early, then BTJ is going to be the one on the field. And I think his overall route combination, so you're not going to see as many go routes this year, is going to change. The talent is not the question here, and the opportunity is not the question here. It's more of just the scars of what you had to pay last year, and I am very comfortable paying this price at wide receiver 31.
I think there's a chance that his price is coming up because if the offseason so far is any indication on the hype we'll get in training camp, it's already been all
Yes.
positive. Everything in OTAs and minicamp has been positive on Brian Thomas Jr. He's talked about he feels healthy this year. They're talking about the deep ball connection. It's all Brian Thomas Jr. And to be fair, Jags are kind of rosy on everybody right now. But to your point and to what I was saying on the health, I think we all kind of forget this. He got injured in week 9, high ankle sprain, missed weeks 10 through 12, and then came back and had a couple of okay games, but really was, at that point, the offense was already revamped and it was totally different with Jacoby Myers in town and the injury happened and all those sort of things. But thinking about the early part of the season, they tried to force feed him the ball, out of the gates, 12 targets in the first 2 weeks. He had a 10 target game, another 7 target game. The volume was not an issue for Brian Thomas Jr. Was it injury related? Was there other stuff going on? Who knows how much of it is which? But I think the point that you're trying to make is a player that did what he did as a rookie. And this is how I feel. Maybe you can correct me, but I feel like that doesn't just happen by accident. We get to bet on that guy now at a much reduced cost.
Yes.
And when we think about the stuff that we preach on the show, sometimes from just a DFS game theory standpoint, is league-winning type players generally come from ambiguous situations because you're not sure what to do. The cost is down, and so the ability to hit a home run at these picks, it's not easy to do, but when it hits, it's a massive boost to your team. And because there's uncertainty on Jacoby and Hunter and Parker Washington and who is it, all these guys are down a little bit in ADP. And so if you can get him as your wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4, like you're not asking him to be the 12th player off the board the way you were a year ago. If he can just spike for 900 yards and like 8 touchdowns this year, for his standards, what we were hoping for, like, that's not that great. At cost, that might not be too bad for your team. So I'm definitely in and want more of him. Like I said, I have paralysis with these two. I need to take some more Brian Thomas Jr. in the event the rookie year outcomes can come back.
Yeah, and I'm at the point where I have a lot of him. I think he's my 3rd highest wide receiver at this point, which is very, very bullish. I might get to a point this offseason where the price he ends up being a top 50 whatever pick, that it's like, okay, well, I'm not getting as much of him anymore, but I'm willing to bet on a player that can, that hit 1,400 receiving yards as a rookie. You don't just look into that. So they're too cheap. I think we brought that up like the first or second episode of this offseason, is like the Jaguars, for being a team that the market likes, that just won the division, like they feel overall cheap for what we think they can do. Like Bishal Tootin, I think we're both in on him. He was on our short list of like, we like him a lot. Lawrence, double stacking there. Brenton Strange. There's a lot of options here with this team. So BTJ is the one that I'm most bullish on. Let's go to tight end. Last year we had Warren and Loveland. We talked about that earlier. Tight end is an elusive position. In the past, we used to always just say, just do 3 tight end builds, get K. Dotton and log out, and you're good. It changes, though, because of the market. And the one thing that I want to bring up is that if you want to have a really, really good advance rate, you really need to find players that are going late at the tight end position that can give you the spike weeks and they catch touchdowns. That's really, like, at the end of the day, the tight end position, like, did you catch touchdowns if you went past pick 130 or whatever? But even Trey McBride, who just had the greatest tight end season of all time, was going 25th off the board last year, only had a 20% advance rate. So it was very good, but not great at the tight end position. Brock Bowers is the elite name this year you've heard us talk about on the podcast. We'll give some other names, but anything you want to say really quickly, because we've talked about Bowers a lot and it shows in our rankings.
No, not necessarily. Just betting on Clint Kubiak and kind of betting on the fact that he will be hyper-targeted, because you look at the wide receiver depth chart, he's a wide receiver 1, 2, and 3, basically, is Brock Bowers. So I think we'll see a nutty target share for him. And obviously last year, even with the corpse of Geno and an offensive line that was horrendous and a coaching staff that already was making vacation plans in week 8 for the offseason, he was still unbelievable off the PCL injury. So I think if you need a reminder of what Brock Bowers can do, go back to his rookie year when he finishes the tight end 1.
I want Brock Bowers so bad in all my home leagues, but because there's a lot of Georgia fans, it's just, the price just goes up every year, no matter what.
Got to pay the tax.
All right, so at the tight end position, I feel like we have relatively unsexy names here, and yet that's kind of what get it done. So I'm just hunting for touchdowns here.
Do it. Who's your guy?
I got Sam Laporta. I referenced him earlier as a Lions player that I'm buying into. It's going 97th overall. His splits, this is just mind-blowing to me over the last couple years. His splits with Jameson on and off the field are the exact same. He's basically the same player. Like, if Jameson's playing, Jameson's not playing, doesn't matter. It doesn't affect Sam Laporta. Jameson Williams, on the other hand, if Laporta's playing, his production spikes and goes through the roof. And if you're just looking at targets per route run, Laporta is ahead of Jameson Williams in a lot of different categories, but especially that one of earning targets on the field when they're both on the field. He's also one of the few tight ends that you can look up and say, did he end up with 10 receiving touchdowns? Because the Lions are favored in 14 of their first 15 games, and this is a much cheaper draft price than what we've paid in the past for Sam Laporta. Like, after his tight end 1 overall season, he was like our do not draft list. Like, we're not drafting Sam Laporta. This is a year that I want to have a ton of Laporta, and he is one of the few tight ends in that middle range that I'm very comfortable drafting as my tight end 1 in builds of 2 tight ends or 3 tight ends, which I love 3 tight end builds. So I feel like Sam Laporta is definitely going to end up, like, I think he's my tight end 2 right now. Like, I'm just going to keep clicking the button for him.
Stack him with Jared Goff, stack Terry and Jaden, and you print money. I mean, that's how this works. I'm with you on this take. I think it's a really good time to buy back in after it was kind of easy-ish to fade after that insane season. We need to remember what happened last year with the back injury that caused the season to end early. He was being targeted on a high percentage of his routes when he was healthy. And obviously, we haven't seen a ton of him in the spring so far, but reports off the back surgery have been positive. So assuming that continues into camp, I'm with you here. We also need to remember the scheme, right? With Petzing coming in, this has been a guy who's had a tight end heavy scheme, even going back to some of the days when he was in Cleveland as an assistant. And so I just think about Sam Laporta's target share, and it is one of those that I think in hindsight could look kind of obvious, but at the time feels a little muddy. And like you said, even if the target share isn't nutty, which it's not going to be with Amon-Ra there, but even if he's not one of those guys that's seeing a healthy target share, could he just be one of the guys that has 600 or so yards and has 11 touchdowns because the Lions are that good? I think it's possible. So yeah, I'm buying into Laporta here, and also including him as part of these stacks, especially if you don't want to pay the premium on one of Gibbs or Amon-Ra and then Jameson Williams. You could take one of the Lions in round 1 and then come back with Laporta and Goff later on.
Yep.
Complete your stack that way.
Yeah, and like in context, a 19% target share at the tight end position is very good. It's solid. It's not Bowers or McBride, but I'm not paying that type of price for Laporta. And that's kind of what he's held steady at in his career, is like 19% target share.
That's an excellent transition, Kyle, because in my show notes here, I have a tight end for us who has seen a 19% target share or higher in 5 straight years.
There you go.
It's Dallas Goedert.
Oh my gosh.
And that's the exact reaction I wanted to get today.
That is the least sexy, one of the least sexy picks you could make this year.
And that's the exact reaction I wanted. I wanted to try to find a player that nobody cares about and nobody's like super excited to pick, but I think is just a strong bet to beat some of the tight ends that he goes around and some of the players he goes around. Like, think about the quarterback prices being pushed up here. Think about Keaton Mitchell is drafted like right next to this player, and for projection-based type stuff, it's like this player is going to project better than some of these running backs and fringe quarterbacks relative to cost and relative to the position. Points per game finishes over the last 4 years. This is with A.J. Brown on the team. Tight end 5, tight end 9, tight end 12, tight end 5. This player is now being taken as the 15th tight end off the board, and we just lost A.J. Brown. So we've already talked about Saquon. We talked about buying back into the offense. Jalen Hurts, we think, is too cheap for the potential upside in the rushing mobility. When A.J. Brown has not been on the field over the last 2 years, it's a small sample size, but in those games, Dallas Goedert's yards per route run is 2.92, an elite mark. Again, small sample, but it's just a speak to what could happen. We like Mekhi Lemon as a prospect. I think there's a world that exists where he is the number 2 option here. But I also think if we look back at the end of the year and Dallas Goedert is second on this team in targets, nobody should be surprised by that because they don't have much depth beyond Mekhi Lemon and Devonta Smith. Sure, people like Dontavian Wicks. Sure, Hollywood Brown is on this team. But in my opinion, the offense needs Dallas Goedert to function the way it's supposed to. When you think about Sean Mannion and where he comes from, we just saw what happened in Green Bay the last couple of years. They hit on Luke Musgrave and Tucker Kraft. We saw spike weeks from all those guys. And they've talked a lot about how this offense will resemble the Shanahan-type schemes. Goddard has come out and talked about studying Tucker Kraft this offseason, studying George Kittle. I think we're going to see a lot more of the tight end in this offense than people are realizing. And so, again, he's a scary click because there is natural regression happening. Like, he's not catching 11 touchdowns again this year based off the weird stuff Kevin Patullo was doing. But for a player that's being drafted outside the top 12, that routinely has been finishing inside the top 12 with A.J. Brown on the team, I think it's a pretty good bet, especially considering the team level success with Philly favored in 13 to 17 games. They're currently tied for 11th in average implied team total.
Yeah, I think there's somebody screaming. They swerved off the road and they're like, we got to talk about Eli Stowers here. But, okay, well,
I'm excited about his potential. It's going to take a long time to get there, is that how I'm treating it.
Yeah, I think the biggest mark in favor of Dallas Goedert is inside the red zone. His role is going to be very different than Eli Stowers, who is essentially a slot wide receiver. We need to just say that. Like, he does not know the tight end position at college, and he definitely doesn't know in the NFL. So his role and how it's going to work is going to probably be very slow in year one. But last year, Goedert was the red zone dominator. He led all pass catchers with 9 touchdowns versus man coverage. So, like, he kind of kept being left in one-on-one situations, and he kind of kept delivering there. So I think that's like part of it. I don't know where he's at body-wise compared to, the rest. Like, if he's just, he was resigned, so I got to give him some credit. The team actually wanted him back. I think I see 11 receiving touchdowns, and my gut's like scared to follow that. But you're saying you're not having to pay that price, and I'm already buying into the Eagles.
if we were just drafting what happened last year, Kyle Pitts should be the second tight end off the board and Dallas Goedert should be the third. But of course, we're not drafting that way, right? Nobody's projecting that. So yeah, even if he does regress a little bit, let's say it's 8 touchdowns, 7 touchdowns. For a guy that's going close to pick 140 as your tight end 2 or tight end 1 if you want to do a late tight end 3 build, I'm cool with that. So especially just given we're buying back into Philly this year, I think tacking Dallas Goedert onto some of those stacks makes a lot of sense to me.
Let's not forget, it was a Super Bowl run, step back. Super Bowl win, step back. If these trends continue, Super Bowl.
Hang the banner, baby.
I don't know what their odds are. I can't remember what we did on the win totals episode. I know we liked Philly to win the division, and we probably didn't do anything else about the futures, but it's just a good organization. They just draft the right way. It's frustrating.
One thing that I was just thinking through with futures, which we do need to have our awards show, and we also need to have like some of our long shot player team to lead the league in receiving.
Dallas Goedert to win MVP. Got it.
Obviously. Let's not get silly. Offensive player of the year, Dallas Goedert. I don't know what the odds are, so this is just off the cuff, but thinking about Saquon and some of that regression that you talked about where he had so many carries inside the 5, if the Jalen Hurts doesn't want to run rumor is true, like Saquon to lead the league in rushing or lead the league in rushing touchdowns is a fun look, but we'll talk more about that this summer.
Yep. That's going to do it for this episode. Those are our league winners for 2026. Feel free to give us some feedback. Tell us why we are very, very dumb in what we do. And we'll keep rolling all summer. Summer of Best Ball Bets. Sign us off.
Yes, sir. Always a fun episode talking through some league winners here as we lead into the 4th of July weekend. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the holiday. Stay safe out there. And we'll be back next week for another episode. Take care.
Thank you for listening to another edition of the Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast. Don't forget to visit us on the web at thefantasyfootballers.com.
Hi, I'm Angie Hicks, co-founder of Angie. One thing I've learned is that you buy a house, but you make it a home. For decades, Angie's helped millions of homeowners hire skilled pros for the projects that matter. Angie, the one you trust to find the ones you trust. Find a pro for your project at Angie.com.
Some say Odoo Business Management software is like fertilizer because of the way it promotes growth. Some say Odoo is like a magic beanstalk, scaling with you while being magically affordable. And some say Odoo's programs for manufacturing, accounting, and more are like building blocks for creating a custom software suite. But I say Odoo is all of it. Fertilizer, magic beanstalk, building blocks for business. Yeah, Odoo. Exactly what every business needs. Sign up at odoo.com. That's ODOO.com.